suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Back with me and back with you for 2022. That's the slogan. David Whiting, dispensing legal wisdom and advice every week on a Tuesday morning. And virtually all the lines are free, which means there are no problems. There are no legal issues in the city of Melbourne to be dealt with, and that's a wonderful thing. Or are there? Come on, grab a slot. It's your chance to get free, excellent advice. 1300 222 774 is the number. Christina in Donvale has got the first call and she'll be joining you in just a moment. But if you'd like that advice, well, it's going cheap. In fact, it's going free. David Whiting, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Virginia.
Happy to you too. Did you have a lovely summer, a lovely break?
Read some books and went for walks. Didn't go anywhere. So, yeah, had a good time.
Oh, nice to hear.
Almost afraid to go anywhere, but, it's... So, lots of outdoor cafes, I think it was.
Can I ask you a question without notice following one of our stories today?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer because it's all down to legislation. So Border Force officials, they have the authority, they've got the power to ask for my phone, to ask for my passcode, to go through anything they like, invade my privacy totally in my phone, and then just hand it back with no explanation, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Rightio.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Yep.
It seems a bit much. It seems like there should at least be what we used to call, reasonable cause. And of course, if they come and search your home or whatever, they need to have a warrant, right?
Sometimes there's a whole lot of pieces of legislation now that enable entry without warrant. And in terms of, what we know from cases in the last couple of years that they've randomly gone through laptops at the airport and found child paedophilia, pornography.
Yep.
So we know that whether that's as a result of tip-off or otherwise, but the answer is yes, you can get, you can access. Let's say, for example, they've got the right to stop and search as they do under the Control of Weapons Act, that would enable them to ask for your password for your phone and check who you've been sending text messages to.
Interesting. All right. So we've got a lot of outrage on text line about this, and people, of course, saying, pedophiles and the like, and that's why they might go through, in particular, your laptop. But the reasonable cause thing is I guess, what Border Force officials, and even going back to when we used to call them customs officials, were they always exempt from that?
No, but there were a whole series of things. But remember, you've got limited ability to refuse, for example, a strip search. So, they've always had, basically, with the mobile phone's a new device we didn't have.
Yeah.
So there's no logical reason why it should be. We can go through every piece of your luggage, take the lining out of your suitcase. We can do all those things.
Yeah.
Or they can do all those things. So the phone is just another thing that you happen to have on you.
Fair enough. So, end of the outrage that I'm getting on text.
No,
because
the
that's
outrage
how it is.
continues.
Yes, very true. But end of our discussion about it. 1300 222 774 if you'd like some legal advice. Christina in Donvale, what's going on?
Hello.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. The matter is as follows. My nephew is a single parent and in financial hardship. My nephew's father passed away in May 2021, last year. They didn't keep in touch because my nephew was from the first marriage, and his father had 2 other children with his second wife. So the second family disowned my nephew and wouldn't want to leave him anything. And I don't think they even listed him on the death certificate. So I was thinking about supporting my nephew. Mm-hmm. And the questions I have is how to locate the will and what share of estate he would be entitled to. But more importantly, David, in your experience, what are the best steps to take in this delicate situation?
Okay, let's hand it over to David. Go ahead.
Christina, kind of a hard call. Let's deal with the death certificate first. If that's the hard one. You can do searches on the Supreme Court website, supremecourt.vic.gov.au, to see if anybody makes an application to do anything in relation to his will. We've
done the search. My daughter has done a search in the Supreme Court, and there was no evidence of any listing in his name.
It's always also quite possible, Christina, that it wasn't necessary to get a grant of probate. If he owned his house jointly with his wife and the money and investments were held jointly with his second wife, then there will be no estate that your nephew could make a claim against.
Right. Okay. So he's not entitled to any share of the estate whatsoever.
No, there might be no estate. Right now, in the event that there is an estate, then it might be. Then your nephew, is entitled to make a claim for a share of the estate, but it's assessed on the basis of his father's moral obligation to his son, including his son's need, and it's not a fixed percentage. His father had a series of competing claims for his wife, his other two children. There might be other claims on his generosity. All of those need to be taken into account. What you might do is contact some lawyers in the area where they live to see if there was a will. You could probably, depending on the last time they moved, you might be able to do a title search and obtain a copy of the transfer of land when they moved, and that might indicate the lawyer who acted at the time they purchased. I would start with probably a title search on the house that this gentleman lived in, because if it was owned jointly, then that's probably the substantial asset in the marriage, and that's probably not available if it was jointly owned. So you've got to be satisfied there's something there.
All right. Well, Christina, we'll leave you with that and see if you can make any more investigations. Good luck with that. Lee in Burnie, good morning. What's going on?
Good morning, Virginia. Morning, David. I've just got a query regarding beneficiaries that don't want to accept their inheritance.
Yeah. Who's the beneficiary and what's the inheritance?
So I was the executor of a family's will, and I was contacted recently by the beneficiaries to say that they didn't want to accept their proportion of their inheritance. And I just wanted to find out what happens then. Is there an official document that has to be signed to say that they don't want
They are entitled at any time, Lee, to disclaim their inheritance.
Right.
And I had one a couple of years ago where the father, where I was the executor, had turned out to be an absolute ratbag, particularly in relation to one son. And the son said, I don't want anything from my father in the circumstances. So he really had two choices. He could come along and say, I'm going to renounce it, in which case it becomes part of the residue of the estate and gets given to whoever else. So let's say it's $20,000 to X and X says no. Yeah. It just gets portioned off to the other people. Okay. And in the event that there aren't any other people, then you construct the will on the basis that the person died. I told the person in my circumstances that it would be better off for him to give his inheritance to his own children. Otherwise, his siblings would be the one who would inherit and not his children.
Can I ask how much it is, Lee?
It's over $100,000. Yes, that's not
and has the beneficiary told you why they don't want it?
It's his former partner, and it's because of the way that she was treated, and it also has a lot of tax obligations, and because it deals with Centrelink, she doesn't want to actually put it into her bank account. She just wants to return the whole amount.
Just doesn't want anything to do with it.
Then what she does is she disclaims her inheritance.
Right.
But then it also might be that if Centrelink ever found out, they'd still treat it as hers.
Does this create a big problem for Lee now, though, as executor, David?
No.
No?
No, this is just a paperwork exercise.
Right. And David, the money was previously held in a sister's trust account. Does it go back to that trust account and then get redivided amongst the
Yes, otherwise you're going to have to open a bank account in the name of the estate, then you'll need a tax file number and all sorts of other things. So my preference would be just put it back in the lawyer's bank account.
Okay, well, we hope that's useful, and what a strange story. But I guess if there's tax implications, who wants to bother? Or indeed, who wants to have anything to do more with Centrelink than you have to, eh, David?
Sometimes it's better to have too much money and not need to talk to Centrelink.
Well,
it's positive.
yes, there is that true. Don't imagine I'd be giving up $100,000, but anyway. Kerry in Macrae, what's the issue? Hello.
Hello, my query today is I had a booking with Qantas that I wanted to change the flight. My original flight was booked from Melbourne, Sydney, LA. I noticed there was a direct flight leaving 2 days prior to that booking, so I rang Qantas to say I live in Melbourne, I would prefer to fly direct Melbourne to LA.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of the booking originally, back in October last year when I booked and paid for the trip, there was no direct flights. And obviously with things...
That's fine. Just go ahead to the issue.
Yes. My question today is I changed the flight and Qantas...
They want more money.
Well, yeah. However, what they did, they downgraded my cabin class, and without telling me, when I changed the booking, David, I said, is there any penalties? What do I have? Is everything okay just to change it directly? Yes, no problem. 2 days I go in to check the booking and they've downgraded me to a different cabin class without even telling me that. And then on the phone to Qantas 5 hours yesterday to resolve the matter, can't get resolved till 6 o'clock last night. And I did have to pay extra. But the point is, if they downgraded the cabin class without even telling me, can they do that?
Okay, let's find out from David. I guess
I'm saying that you're having a negotiation to change a booking, and at the end of that negotiation, they have to tell you what the deal is. So I'm saying, no, they can't downgrade your cabin class without your agreement. Now, it may be...
I'd pay
that's
for
the short answer.
Cabin. Yeah, okay.
So you pay for premium economy and they gave you economy, or you paid for business or whatever. You're entitled to the class that you contracted to provide. If they may come to you and say, look, I can get you on the direct flight, but you need to have a downgrade of cabin class.
And you can say
then
no.
That's a negotiation point, but they just can't do it arbitrarily.
It hasn't been done, and Qantas hasn't been forthcoming in altering that in a easy manner. There's no direct line you can access to get that change. There's no the customer reservation line can't handle that. So you're on hold for up to 3 hours to get it resolved, and then the phone cuts out, and it's just an absolute nightmare. We just don't have that.
All right. Well, let's get to the end of
that's
what
just the process. So the answer would be, if you can't. I mean, I would be making it. I'd be telling them that you wanted a cash adjustment of some kind, but no, they can't change your class. But the worst you're going to end up with is that you won't get a ticket on the plane you want to go on, and you'll then have an argument about money.
Yeah. So we'll leave that one with you. Good luck, Kerry. Katie in Daylesford. Hi. What's going on? How can we help? Hello, Katie. You there?
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, you're on the air, Katie. Go ahead.
Hi. I called you just before you got on your break to let you know or ask queries about my friend that had 50 horses on the property.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
That the previous owners wouldn't come and get.
Mm-hmm.
We happened to have a couple of weeks later, as we were leaving the property, the owner of the horses was at the gate, and we had quite an interesting altercation, which resulted in her being abusive to my friend who owns the property, and then he just wrote back and he said, look, I've had enough of this now. This is what I've been told. This is the advice I've been given. This is David's advice about bylaws officers and the Shire coming in to retrieve the animals. And he said, if you haven't done this within 7 days, blah, 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 this is what steps we'll take. And then her husband got in touch with him and said, if you do that, I'll take you to court, rah, rah, rah. And then he said, if you take me to court, our contract says that you must remove the horses 2 years ago. It's not going to stand up. within 7 days, the horses were removed.
Fantastic.
Great outcome.
Now you've got to get someone
So
else to
I'll-
cut the grass.
Exactly. So we'll just get some sheep instead because they're a lot safer. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, and it really made a difference.
Pleasure.
That's great. Good to have good advice, and then good to stand up behind it and to actually, be a little bit firm sometimes. Sometimes you just have to be. Katie, well done. Kai in Coburg, what's happening?
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
I bought a car from someone who was not legally allowed to sell it to me as he still had finance owing on it. And now he has blocked my number and he's currently overseas and is not looking to resolve it, which means that I assume the finance team can claim the car back when the contract's over from me.
The finance team can claim the car back because the loan isn't paid.
Yeah, the full finance is paid, but when I bought it from him,
which is why they recommend that you check whether there are encumbrances on a car at the time you buy them.
yes, that was my fault.
I've done similar, but not quite the same. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what sort of action I can take since he's not responding to me and I've paid a visit to his house as well, to his dad, and his dad had told me that he would sort it out and then had just blocked my number straight after I left.
Oh, wow.
Your issue is that you can sue him, but, if he's overseas, you end up with a judgment which is practically unenforceable.
So,
Yeah.
what would you
what
do,
did you pay
David,
for the
if you were
car?
him?
Sorry?
Well, I would be, I suppose, the absolute pragmatist would say, well, let's drive the car till somebody decides they want to repossess it and then give it to them and then sue the person I bought the car from. Is probably the strategy I'd adopt. My question then becomes is how much did you pay for it, Kai?
Yeah.
$34,000.
Oof. And how much is owing?
Wow.
How much?
I'm not sure. When I speak to the finance team, they can't give me any information on that because it's not my name that's under the contract.
Yes.
And it's a
Privacy gone mad, isn't it? Yep.
Do you, Kai, do you know when that balloon payment falls due?
I'm pretty sure it's in sometime next year, middle of next year.
So for $35,000, you'll get, I guess, is it a pretty nice car?
Yeah, it's all right.
I would just enjoy that pretty nice car for $35,000 until someone comes and takes it back, I guess. But is Kai going to be responsible for anything here, David?
He's not going to be responsible for any of the payments or what happens to the finance contract, and he's still got a claim against the owner.
Yeah. So even if he keeps driving it.
Yes. So if he can find the owner, that's fantastic. He can then sue the owner. But whether there's going to be any money in the circumstances, I kind of doubt. He might like to talk to the finance company and give them his details so that when it's time to repossess, it gets repossessed.
Yep. He
might also have a talk to the finance company about the possibility of buying it when the time comes at a reduced price. But he's still got the right to drive it. It's then just a question of when the finance company chooses to repossess.
Kai,
I assume.
Go on.
I assume the previous owner, in some sort of contract, in the contract, it would say that you shouldn't sell this car if you still have finance to it. But obviously, that's
yes, yeah, it's likely to be a breach of his finance agreement. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That doesn't help you though.
Kai, what was it? Was it a friend who sold you the car?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, I was going to say they're not a friend anymore, are they?
No, not quite.
Do you reckon they'll be coming back to Australia by the time the final payment's due?
I've had a little bit of contact with them, and they're only there for a funeral, they told me, but it's been a couple months now, and the story keeps changing.
Right.
They work here, which I'm sure they'll be back here eventually.
And would you be waiting for them when they come back?
Oh, of course.
You'll check by from time to time.
Kai, check in with us and let us know how this is going, but whatever you do, hold your temper, okay?
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much.
What kind of car is it?
It's a Holden Commodore.
But a souped-up one, right?
Of course.
Is it a special vehicle?
No, I wish. I can't drive that. I'm too young.
Okay. How old are you, Kai?
I'm only 19.
All right. Okay.
Wow. I'm impressed you've got $34,000 to spend on a car without worrying about finance. Never mind.
What do Mum and Dad think of all this, Kai?
Mum's a bit stressed out over it, but yeah, hopefully it gets sorted.
Yeah, we hope it gets sorted too.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in. I hope we were helpful.
Thank you very much.
Good on you, mate. Look after. Drive carefully in that fast car, will you? You be careful.
I will.
I'm sounding
No,
like
it only looks fast, Virginia. It's not fast.
It will go like the clappers, is what I'm saying. And I know I'm sounding like Kai's mum, but I'm echoing every mum who's listening here this morning. All right, we can fit one last one in. Oh, I'm going to have to do an eeny meeny, I think, here. Helen in Ringwood. We love a fence story. Go right ahead.
Hello, it's Helen here.
It is Helen. Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes. I have a question, a boring question, I think, because there's so many of these questions about fences. But I share a back fence. We both own our properties either side. A back fence, my neighbour claims that he can't pay or won't pay the money to replace the fence, which is on the point of falling down. I'm wondering what my options are.
You could... Are you prepared to fund the fence, are you, Helen?
Yeah, I would have to if he won't, because I don't know. I just wanted to know if there's any... Do I take his word that he hasn't got it, or is there any option open to me?
Well, no, let's accept he doesn't have the cash.
Yes.
Doesn't mean he'll never have the cash. He just currently doesn't have the cash.
Yes.
I would be producing... I'd try to get him to agree to the fence, the construction and the price, and an agreement to pay you at some certain future time, with or without interest. That's where I'd come along and say, yes, you owe me $2,500 for your half of the fence, and agree to pay me at this particular time, with or without interest. I'd be getting it in a written agreement, Helen.
Thank you. I will do that. That's a big relief. Thank you.
Terrific.
Okay.
Glad that was helpful. And we can fit one more in. Andrew in Clifton Hill, what's going on there? Hello.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Came home yesterday to having no peach tree in my front yard. The council's... I've been down to see the council, and they said Powercor is responsible for cutting it down, and there's no reason why it was cut down.
It's on your property?
It's on our property, yeah.
And was it in the way of the power lines?
Not at all. The next door neighbour's tree's been hacked totally, just like cowboys have just come in and just chopped it. And the next door neighbour's tree is still on the power lines. So,
you have a claim for compensation against the people who organised the cutting of the tree, and probably the contractors who did the work as well. They clearly have. Every now and then, Powercor or those companies will issue a work order, go and cut this tree. And they send out contractors. You will have a claim against the contractor for the value of the tree. First thing I would be doing would be walking up and down the street to see if anybody's got any security cameras that might have some film of what happened. And I would be talking to the power company and saying, your contractors have come onto my property and cut down my tree. If you've got some photos in the front yard which would indicate that the trees weren't encroaching, but even if they were approaching the power lines, there's still an ability to trim them without cutting them down completely. They have a claim against the power company and the contractor.
Yeah, because I went to the council office, and the council arborist came and took photos and had a look, and he was just absolutely blown away, disgusted. Yep.
Now, what you want to do is go back to the arborist and say to the arborist, I want someone to value the tree for me. Mature trees are hideously expensive.
Well, we planted this tree when my daughter was born, so she gets peaches every year off this tree, and she's absolutely devastated.
She would be. So, and what's left of the tree? What is left, Andrew?
A stump. Yeah.
Oh, they took it out.
It's a 16-year-old tree.
Can I just clarify? It's actually in your front yard, not on the nature strip.
In our front yard, not on the nature strip. Correct.
And nowhere near the lines.
Nowhere near the line. It was probably like a metre short of the power lines that come into our house. It was nowhere near the pole-to-pole lines.
Is that a trespass coming onto the property in that way, David?
Yes, but your measure of damages is still the same.
Sure.
Your measure of damages is the value of the tree, which is now no longer there.
That's incredible. I'm really sorry, Andrew, and I know how people feel about their important trees. Don't want to undermine that at all.
We had no notice in the mailbox or correspondence to say this was happening, and they've trodden all over the next door neighbour's garden and absolutely just trashed it. It's just, Absolutely disgraceful.
Listen,
Take your own pictures.
Yeah, do. And Andrew, stay in touch with us, will you? I'm just going to pop you back on hold because I think we'd like to get your details and I'll stay in touch. You've also reminded me, Andrew, and David, thank you so much. Great to have you on board this morning. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thanks, David.